Over the past month or so, the Gundam franchise has been holding a fan vote, trying to find out what the most beloved Gundam mobile suit is in the franchise. Now, this is specifically for Gundam mobile suits. This does not include like your grunt suits, so your GMs, your Zakus, things like that. Those are not included within this list of possible votees for people to vote for. Now, it's been brought down to kind of an interim where they've essentially categorized down to like 20 that are like the top voted ones currently. So today I want to run through those and I want to rank them myself from my least favorite to my favorite. But before I dive into my ranking of these 20 Gundams, I want to hear from you guys. So head on down to the comments section below. Let me know how you would rank these. Let me know what you voted for within the fan vote. Has what you voted for actually shown up on this list of the top 20? Because there are quite a few notable exceptions in here, which I will talk about briefly as well. But yeah, let me know down in the comment section below what you've been voting for, what you think is like most likely to win, all that kind of stuff. Also, while you're there, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you are a fan of Mecha anime content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. And without further ado, let us dive into the list, starting at number 20. And coming in last place for me is the Turn A Gundam. Now, I know this is probably a very controversial choice because a lot of people really love this suit. I've not seen Turn A Gundam, so I don't really have the context of it. I'm just going purely off of looking at it as a design, and the design just doesn't appeal to me. Like, I get the uniqueness of it. I think people like it because it is such a bizarre design and so different to every other mainline Gundam, but also pretty much every other mobile suit within the franchise. So I get that. I get that people like something that's a little bit different, a little bit quirky, and I completely understand that does appeal to a lot of people. Me personally, though, I just look at this and think, this is just a weird design. It doesn't really vibe with me. Like, it's very not Gundam-esque, which is maybe one of the reasons why people do like it. But for me, just it's a suit design that doesn't work for me. And again, I've not seen the series, so I don't have the context of how it works. So who knows, you know, in like maybe a year's time or whatever, if I've gotten around to watching Turn A Gundam, I might turn around and say, I love this suit. But as it stands, I'm just looking at this purely as a design, and I don't really like the design. Next up at number 19, I have the G Self, of course, from Reconquista in G. This design, I go back and forth on. There's elements of it that I do like, but at the same time, like in comparison to a lot of the other ones on this list, of which there are some really, really good ones, this just ends up like really low down on the list. Mainly, I think because of the head design, I go back and forth on it. I like elements of it, but also I think it is just a little too round. Like it almost looks like very like ball-like, but then it's obviously got a bit of like, it's not really even a V fin, it's like things that stick out here. I like elements of it, I also don't like elements of it. The design as a whole, I don't think it's bad. I just think like in comparison to a lot of the other designs that we do have when it comes to Gundams, this definitely just ends up very low on the list. At number 18, I have the Gundam F91. Again, similar to the G-Self, there's elements of this suit that I do like. There's elements of it that I don't really like. I'm not the biggest fan of the whole chest area. It looks very Transformers car-like, which is not always a bad thing, but I just don't know whether it quite works for Gundam, and specifically with this mobile suit. I think it's definitely like quite an eyesore design-wise when it comes to the rest of the suit, but you know, it's very classic Gundam looking. Of course, it's from UC, a little bit more towards like the future of UC, but even still, I think it looks like decent enough. It's just that, again, in comparison to a lot of these other ones, it does end up lower on the list, and one of the things is that it's like intentionally very small mobile suit, and I think that is not always necessarily in its favor. Again, though, I haven't watched F91, so seeing it in the context of it actually in the movie might change my opinion on it, but going purely off of the design of it, again, I don't hate it, but I don't love it, especially in comparison to the other ones. At number 17, I have the Full Armor Unicorn Gundam Destroy Mode. Now, I'm kind of surprised this one ended up on the list. Like, I'm not surprised that Unicorn is on this list, evidently, because it is one of the most popular ones, but I'm surprised that this fully, like, equipped version ended up on here. But at the same time, not really, because people love it when you just throw, like, a bunch of weaponry onto a giant robot. And I am also one of those people, most of the time. But I do think there are times where the size and scale and build of a mobile suit does not always facilitate a lot of weapons, and I think this is one of those cases. I still think it looks decent enough, but I just think there's other mobile suits out there that are almost like built to carry lots of weapons, and therefore it looks a bit more natural. Obviously, the Unicorn Gundam is still quite a built out mobile suit anyway. It's not like super slim or anything like that, But at the same time, the amount of weaponry that it puts on with this version, I think it's just a bit too overkill. So again, like if this was just the standard unicorn, it would probably be higher on the list, but because it is this version that's got so many weapons on it, it does end up a little bit lower. Moving on to number 16, I have the Red Gundam. Now, I'm actually quite surprised this one ended up on here. It is also the only Shah Gundam that's ended up on here, of which there really aren't that many, like, in actual canon. But yeah, like, I'm kind of surprised this ended up on here. But again, I do like the Red Gundam design. I'm a big fan of Evangelion, so obviously something that's very inspired by that works for me. I know for a lot of people, this will probably be right at the bottom of the list, and I kind of understand it because, yes, I think the head's a little bit over-designed in many ways, but there's also a lot of elements of the head that I do really like. I love kind of the honeycomb type of look that it's got to the eyes. I think that really stands out, especially when the eyes are purple. I think there's a lot of cool things that they do. And also, I've seen the series, so I've seen this thing in action. I know the context of it, and I like all of that stuff. I like the whole setup of it. I like it with the fin funnel bits as well. All that stuff's really cool. But again, there's just a lot of mobile suits on here, a lot of Gundams that are really good, so this just ended up further down on the list. And out of all of these, it's definitely one of the ones that has more issues, which is why, again, I put it this low on the list. And number 15, I've got the Strike Rouge Gundam. In some ways, I actually like the Strike Rouge colour scheme a little bit more than the Strike colour scheme, but I'm also not the biggest fan of the Strike as a mobile suit. When it comes to Kira Yamato's mobile suits, it's definitely lower on the list for me. Never been a gigantic Strike fan, but again, I think I quite like the Strike Rouge just a little bit more, especially when it's got the AO Striker pack. I think that just generally builds out the mobile suit a little bit better. Also piloted by Kagli, who I really do love, but also it's not like super prominent. It never has like a huge amount of screen time within the series because you don't see Kagli in mobile suits all that much, especially in comparison to like Catherine or Kira or Shin. All of those kind of characters tend to end up in mobile suits a lot more than Kagli, but I do like it. I just like a lot of other ones more. At number 14, I've got Gundam Barbatos Lupus Rex. Now, this is where we move into all of the ones that I really do like. Like, from here on out, I would say that consistently, I like all of these, and I have very few issues with them. The Barbatos Lupus Rex probably would have ended up lower on my list if I hadn't seen Iron Blooded Orphans. As I recall in this video, I've got about 3 episodes left, so I've not seen kind of that final bit of the Barbatos Lupus Rex, but I've seen bits of it before, and it's very cool. It's one of those designs that I don't actually love the design, but with the context of what it does in the series, how it's utilized, its fighting style, I love that, because I love a bit of like aggressive hand-to-hand combat. Obviously it's not hand-to-hand, but it's like physical weaponry, and you just feel every hit of it. I personally wouldn't have put the Barbatos Lupus Rex on here, mainly because I don't love the arms. I think they're, the claw-like nature that they have to them doesn't quite work for me. I think I prefer the Barbatos Lupus as a whole, because it's a bit more Gundam-like in many ways, and the proportions I think are a little bit better. But the Barbatos Lupus Rex has some fantastic moments. So representation of that suit, representation of what that suit and its pilot, of course, do in the series is very cool. So that's why it did end up here on the list. At number 13, I've got the God Gundam, also known as the Burning Gundam. Of course, Domon Kashu's main mobile suit, or his second mobile suit within G Gundam. Now, I'm not the hugest fan of G Gundam. I think I've made that fairly evident on the channel. I don't hate it, but I also really do like quite a lot of the mobile suits in it, despite not loving the series as a whole. And the God Gundam is definitely one of those. Like, this is a fantastic looking design. Much like a lot of Gundam series, I think they really nail the aesthetic of things in relation to the characters, the people piloting them, and they almost feel like an extension of their personalities. And I think that the God Gundam really feels like an extension of Domon Kashu, like, as a character. Of course, in terms of his lineage and, the place that he comes from, this is a very, Asian martial arts inspired looking mobile suit, which I really like. I think the design very fitting of G Gundam, and it just has some very cool moments, of course, as well. When it goes all gold and stuff like that. This has a lot of very cool moments, but at the same time, it comes from a series that I don't particularly love, and therefore there's other mobile suits that I like the designs of a little bit more, but I also like their respective series a bit more as well. At number 12, I've got the Strike Freedom Gundam. Again, I think a lot of people would have this a bit higher on the list, especially when it comes to the Seed mobile suits, of which there are a lot of Seed Gundams on this list because it's one of the more popular Gundam series. But the Strike Freedom, When it comes to Kira's mobile suits, is not one of my favorites, but undeniably, I think he has some very good looking ones, and the Strike Freedom again is another one of those. There's another one that I'll talk about further up on this list, which is very similar to this, but I just think it improves on it a little bit more. But with the Strike Freedom, it has great moments with Kira. I think the first launch of it is fantastic. There's just other Kira suits that I prefer a little bit more, so I don't have much negative to say about it. Much like with a lot of suits on this list, I just like the ones above it a bit more. At number 11, I've got the Destiny Gundam. As a mobile suit design, this is one of the top tier ones in my opinion. Like, this is an all-time Gundam design for me personally. The reason it's not higher on the list is because I don't love the color scheme. Now, it is the very traditional Gundam color scheme, but there's another color scheme for it, which we'll talk about with another mobile suit soon, that I just think works better. I think it fits its respective character a lot better. If the Destiny Gundam, like the original Destiny Gundam, had a color scheme that was maybe a little bit more befitting of Shin, then it would be higher. But I think the color scheme just brings it down a notch. Still, an excellent mobile suit though, and again, one of my favorite like designs in the whole franchise. Moving into my top 10 now, we have the Zeta Gundam. Of course, an all-time iconic design within the Gundam franchise, the original transforming mobile suit, and for that reason, of course, like, it belongs high up on the list. And I think that as a design, it looks great. I gotta say, the line art for the Zeta Gundam, I think is fantastic. Like, there's a lot of occasions where the line art for the mobile suit really doesn't do it justice. I think that the line art does the Zeta justice. I love the line art for this thing, but the mobile suit, the Gundam as a whole, obviously it looks fantastic. It really does feel like that next stage protagonist Gundam where it's like, okay, we've done this really cool design that does all these really cool things. What do we do next? Let's make it transform and let's give it a bit more of an angular look that looks really cool. And they did that with the Zeta Gundam. Now, I haven't started Zeta yet. I'm very excited to dive into it very soon though. And I think once I've watched that, the Zeta Gundam could very well end up extremely high on my ranking. It's just that as it stands, I've not seen it in action all that much, so I'm going mainly off the design, but knowing some cool things about it as well. At number 9, I've got the Freedom Gundam, arguably the most beloved mobile suit within the franchise. I think this could very well actually win the fan vote overall because it is the Freedom Gundam. Like, I think it's voted the most popular in Japan anyway. It's popular everywhere. I think in terms of iconic, like, actual Gundam designs, this is probably second or third to, obviously, RX-78 is right at the top, then maybe New Gundam's probably second most iconic, and then Freedom probably third most iconic. So it's iconic, it has fantastic moments. The first like appearance of it where it shows up, like, it stands on business. Like, this thing is so cool. It holds up incredibly well. Over 20 years later, it's still a very beloved design. Most people, when it comes to the Seed designs, they still say that, yeah, like, they like the Freedom the most, and it's understandable because it's not too over designed. It takes the traditional Gundam look, but switches some things up, especially in terms of color scheme, which I do really like. And yeah, it just looks like a very nice complete package of a mobile suit. Completely understandable why this one ended up within the top 20, and I think it's probably going to win overall. Now, personally, there's just some suits that I like better. That's why it's not as high on the list. Coming in at number 8, I've got Gundam Aerial. I personally do like the sleek look of certain mobile suits, and I think the Witch from Mercury kind of got that down perfect. Like, especially with the Aerial, it's managed to take the traditional Gundam look, but almost like super modernize it. I think it's the pinnacle of what people want from a modern mobile suit, a modern mecha robot. And yeah, for me personally, like, I don't have any issues with this thing. Like, it looks super cool. The line art probably doesn't do it justice, but in the show, in like all its action sequences and that, very, very cool stuff. And it's one of my favorite mobile suits within that series. It probably stands as one of my favorites of all time as well. Coming in at number 7, I've got the Mighty Strike Freedom Gundam. Now, I talked about with the Strike Freedom Gundam earlier how there's a certain element of design that just elevated another another version of that Strike Freedom, and it is the Mighty Strike Freedom with the Proud Defender. If we were in the era of Seed Freedom just coming out, this would probably be in the top 3. I've let it simmer a little bit, and I don't think it's quite at the top tier that I initially said. I still love the design though. Like, at the end of the day, I'm putting this like 7th on the list, and there's some fantastic designs within this whole fan vote list anyway. But yeah, the Mighty Strike Freedom Gundam, I think the only thing that really brings it down is the fact that it's not on screen all that much, because it literally comes in at the last minute of the Seed Freedom movie, but it absolutely makes an impression. I love the design with the Proud Defender. It looks so cool with the katana, but I don't know whether it's a katana, but it's some sort of sword. This thing's just cool. Like it just, everything about it is aura and makes an impression, and I just love this thing. I love the design of it. Again, if this was in a more prominent role, if this showed up and had more screen time, did even more cool things, it would probably be even higher up the list than it already is. Coming in at number 6, I've got the original RX-78-2. Of course, it had to end up high on the list. Like, this is the OG, and that's the main reason why it is so high. The reason why it isn't higher is because I think there's a lot of designs that have improved upon that original version, because at the end of the day, it's designed from 1979, so in comparison to today's designs, it's slightly dated, not in a bad way by any means. I think sometimes you need something that's a little bit dated, but obviously it's a bit more blocky, it's a bit more simple, but that's not a bad thing. It's stupidly iconic. It's one of the most iconic like anime creations of all time, and it's certainly the most iconic robot when it comes to anime, most iconic mecha. This, yeah, like there's not really much to say about this. It's the original, it's iconic, and it's essentially the template for everything that's come afterwards. So you got to show respect to the OG, and it's still a great design even over 45 years later. Moving into our top 5 now, though, we have the Gundam Mark II AEUG version. Now, again, like I said, I've not actually seen Zeta, but this design, I think, just culminates everything about a mecha. Like, it looks sleek and modern enough, but also it is built like a robot, and I just think they really like nailed down a design here where it's not over designed, it's not got too much going on with it, but also it's not stupidly blocky and dated. Like, it just holds up really well all these years later. You can't go wrong with the Mark II. I think it's almost the pinnacle of Gundam design in many ways. Obviously, I've got ones higher up above it on this list, but this is a fantastic design that I understand why people love it so much. Great color scheme, great proportions, everything about it. I think it's a perfect design. But again, there's just other designs that I either have more of a personal connection to or I just like slightly more. At number 4, I've got Gundam Caliban. This is my favourite all-white mobile suit from the entire franchise. It beats out Unicorn for me. The moment this thing came on screen with the music, it was awesome. It helps that I have the high grade of it, and it's probably my favourite high grade that exists. Might even be one of my favourite Gunpla kits of all time. It truly is fantastic. Across the board, it has the sleek design that Ariel has, but I think it just elevates on like every single aspect of that suit. I love the all-white design with elements of red and black in there. Just this thing looks so cool. It's got a really unique weapon as well, and as a big fan of the Witch from Mercury, the Caliban is a top-tier mobile suit for me. In third place, I've got the Destiny Gundam Spec 2. Now, I mentioned earlier about the Destiny Gundam and how there's something that, again, elevates that design, and it is with the Spec 2 and the colour scheme. Now, it's minor changes, but it goes for a darker blue, a darker red, a darker grey, and it also utilizes more grey and removes a lot of elements of yellow. For example, you got like a grey V-fin, which I think looks fantastic. Essentially what the Destiny Gundam Spec 2 is the Destiny Gundam, but take the Legend Gundam's colour scheme, combine them together. It comes out incredibly cool. The Destiny Gundam as a design is one of my all-time favourite mobile suit designs. You add a great colour scheme that is one of my all-time favourite colour schemes as well, and it's a recipe for success. Also, it has some incredible moments within Seed Freedom. Shin probably stole the show overall, and it is down to some of his scenes in the Spec 2. Our runner-up in second place is the Wing Gundam Zero from Endless Waltz. Now, this design, again, is super iconic, and I just fall in love with this the more that I look at it. The fact that it's got like actual wings, they're still robotic. I just think it's got such an elegant look to it. And, you know, every time I think of like, what are some of my favorite designs? This is one that always comes to mind. This, again, like the Destiny, the Might Strike Freedom, for example, the Caliban, Alfred, these kind of designs always come to mind for me because they just have something about them that not only looks cool, also has unique elements to it, but again, like, I just really love it. Like, I really do love the Wing Zero Endless Waltz, even not having watched Endless Waltz, and I think Wing has some fantastic designs. This is absolutely probably my favorite. I love the Death Scythe, hell, the Endless Waltz version specifically, But the Wing Gundam Zero Endless Waltz, I think, is an all-time suit and absolutely belongs in this top 20 fan vote. May even be deserving of a #1 spot. But coming in first place for me is the new Gundam. The pinnacle of probably Gundam designs. I mean, it's the pinnacle of Amuro Ray's like career as a mobile suit pilot or as a Gundam pilot. And yeah, the new Gundam, like it does everything right for me. I love a white color scheme. This has that. It has, you know, elements of black and yellow. I think it all just comes together to create something that looks super cool. Add to that, you got the fin funnel that kind of acts as like a single wing. I always love that look. I think it's really cool. Big fan of Final Fantasy VII. Love the look of Sephiroth. So anything that kind of recaptures that, even though Shaz Counterattack came out before Sephiroth, but either way, it looks cool. Like the idea of like a one wing type of thing that's actually made up of funnel bits. That's super cool. I love the design. I love the color scheme. There's not really much else for me to say aside from that. I love the new Gundam. I love the look of it, and yeah, it just quite easily stands as my favorite mobile suit of all time. Like, yes, it's in this list. Yes, it is my favorite of this list, but it is probably also my favorite mobile suit. There we have it though, guys. That wraps up my ranking of the top 20 fan-voted Gundams from this poll. Now, obviously, there are some notable exceptions from this top 20, and this is not out of choice for me. This is just out of like how things have ended up. I'm surprised that the G-Quirks isn't in here. I know technically it doesn't have Gundam in the name, but it is actually a Gundam because it is actually called the Gundam Quirks. Also, things like the Justice Gundam or the Infinite Justice Gundam, whatever version you want to go with. I'm surprised that didn't end up on here. A lot of seed representation, and I'm quite surprised that wasn't on here. Also, no 00 in sight. Like, we don't have the Exia, the 00 itself, a lot of the other mobile suits from that show. Death Scythe, Hell Endless Waltz. I know the Death Scythe is always incredibly popular, so I'm surprised that didn't end up in here. And again, it is a Gundam, so yeah, there are definitely some notable exceptions here, which I'm really quite surprised about. Before I get out further, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you are a fan of mecha anime content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Also, like I did say earlier, head on down to the comments section below. Let me know how you would vote these top 20 fan voted ones. How would you kind of arrange them if you were to do a ranking yourself? What's the one that you've voted for, even if it's not included in this 20, because again, this vote is still ongoing, and I will leave a link in the description below. So you can still vote for any of the mobile suits that are included. Not just these 20, these are just currently the top 20 most voted ones, but there's a lot on this list, literally every Gundam within the whole franchise. So yeah, head on down to the description, click that link, go vote for yourself, and then come back here and let me know what you voted for. Thank you once again for tuning into Mecha Chat today. I'll see you guys next time.